From Project Era to Project Nova to even the recently created Yap Maps, people have been trying to recreate OG Fortnite from the moment that it faded away. Whether you enjoy playing these projects or whether you prefer to leave the past in the past, one thing is for sure, and that is OG Fortnite is special. But what made it special? Nostalgia. This is a word that people often like to throw around every time you say you prefer OG Fortnite to current Fortnite, but it's simply not applicable. I mean, think about it. Why would there be countless people playing OG Fortnite recreations if it truly was just nostalgia and it wasn't fun? Nostalgia also doesn't just spawn in. You must have been having fun playing Fortnite in the past without that factor of nostalgia for nostalgia to even have been created in the first place. However, if you tried playing Project Nova or Era and you didn't enjoy OG Fortnite like you did in the past, yes, there is an argument to be made that maybe nostalgia is influencing your memories of OG Fortnite. But another thing we need to consider before we go down that route is, were you able to convince your friends to play these projects with you? Your friends play a huge factor in how much you enjoy a game. No, I'm not going to act like your friends are the reason you like or dislike OG Fortnite. But what I will tell you to consider is, how many times have you found yourself playing a game while talking to your friends that you would not be playing otherwise? Playing with your friends can somehow make some of the most awful games fun. They can convince you to play a game that is horrible and you will have fun with them. Now let me ask you, how many of your friends that used to play OG Fortnite with you play Fortnite to this day? Probably not a lot of them. Back when Chapter OG came out, a lot of your friends returned to the game, did they not? And you probably had a lot of fun playing with them once again. I see a lot of people now saying that Chapter OG is better than OG Fortnite, and in a gameplay sense that honestly does not make any sense, but just in terms of spending time with your friends and that added layer of nostalgia, it all connects. When Fortnite is the most popular game in the world, or when Fortnite brings back the OG seasons, your friends are gonna be there, and that's rare. And that's honestly a dynamic that cannot be recreated or simulated no matter what projects you try to play. But now let's talk about the gameplay. If you've seen my TikToks before, you know how I feel about OG gameplay compared to the current Fortnite gameplay, and I have a lot to say here. First, let's talk about the graphics. Objectively speaking, if you compare old Fortnite to new Fortnite looks leagues better in terms of realism. The problem is, Fortnite wasn't going for realism when they first launched their game. If I were to show you a new game that just came out and it looked very realistic, you would say, wow, that looks so realistic. But that is only because that game was meant to look realistic. The realism is something to strive towards. What made OG Fortnite stand out and look special and gain the popularity that it did is the charm and that warm feeling that the game induced. Fortnite's unique look brought a breath of fresh air into a gaming scene that at the time did not have anything special going on. The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker is a game that was designed to look cartoony, and when this game was first announced and people saw the graphics for the first time, they had nothing but negative things to say. That is, however, until people saw this game for what it was, reinventing the wheel, bringing a unique charm or flair through the visuals that cannot be found in other titles. This is a banana with duct tape on it. Why did this piece of art sell for $120,000? It is because the way that it made the buyer feel. Art is all about how it can make you feel. It is not about looking realistic. This is something that college artists quickly realize as they find out what made Picasso famous is not his ability to draw realistically, it is his ability to invoke a feeling through his original style. OG Fortnite had a special charm to its original graphics that invoked feelings into us players. And by changing those graphics and making the game more realistic, all they did was make it look more generic and dull. They made it look like every other game on the market, thus taking away those feelings. And simultaneously, and I hate to be talking about the graphics for so long, but they are just so important, they made the game run worse. A lot of PCs cannot run Fortnite very well, and a lot of consoles now experience stutters and frame drops because the game looks too realistic for us to handle. Let's move on and talk about simplicity. And by simplicity, I really am referring to the lack of features. Sprinting, mantling, and vehicles are three things that may be simple in their own right, but they made the game a lot more fast-paced and complicated. In the past, if you got into a battle in Fortnite, you would finish that battle and get up out of there because surely people heard gunshots in the distance. In current Fortnite, if you engage in a battle, multiple people are going to come to you just because of how much transportation is readily available. And those are only three means of transportation. As of right now, there are wings in the game that allow you to fly, impulse grenades, and various other items that promote mobility. In the past, camping used to be a strategy that only scrubs would utilize because if you did it, you were not going to have enough good weapons to complete the game. But now, because of how readily available mythics are, on top of the fact that if you engage in combat, you are literally at a disadvantage for the rest of the game, camping is now the most effective tactic available. Which is pretty counterproductive if you ask me, because quite literally things that were added to the game to make the game faster ended up making it slower, because now no one wants to engage in combat. And when you do engage in combat, have fun dealing with all the mythics in the game. Back in the day, the best weapon you could find is a gold scar. You didn't have Korra's airbending magic. The simplicity was a beautiful thing that worked and made the game feel fair, fun, and engaging. Let's talk about the map. The current Fortnite map is the same houses pasted over and over again. And by over and over again, I mean 10 times. Let's compare that to the Chapter 1 Season 3 map that had 18 POIs. The thing that made those POIs special though is that there was a purpose behind every single drop spot. For example, if you wanted to land at Tilted Towers, you knew that it was going to be a combat-based game. If you land at Wailing Woods, you know you're going to see 1 or 2 people, collect a bunch of materials, maybe rotate to cargo. If you land at Salty Springs, you're going to see 4 to 5 people. You can loot the first house you land at, but most likely you're going to have to engage in combat before you can loot any more. The purpose and intention behind every individual spot is what makes them so iconic. That is what makes us remember the name of each of those drop spots. It really does feel like starting in Chapter 2, which I hate to say because a lot of people think very fondly of that season, that they just started throwing together cool looking locations with no intention or purpose behind them. Let's play a fun game. If you were a big fan of Chapter 2, which I'm sure a lot of people watching this were, can you name 10 POIs that were in Chapter 2? Most likely not, but if I were to tell you to name 10 POIs on just the Chapter 1 Season 3 map alone, odds are you could probably do it. The final thing I want to talk about in this video were the collabs. When they were few and far between, it was a special feeling. It was, oh my gosh, Fortnite is collaborating with Ninja. As a Fortnite player, it was a very special feeling when you got one of your favorite content creators or shows added into Fortnite. But notice how I said player, because as time went on, it started to feel like you were less of a player and more of a customer. Which is my final reason why I believe that OG Fortnite was more special. I believe that Fortnite started viewing us more so as cash cows than they did players. They rarely interact with the community anymore, and everything they do is mostly just to tactically make them more money, which is not a bad thing from a business perspective, but it just makes the game feel less special. I'm new to this YouTube thing, so let me know if you enjoyed. Let me know if I missed anything in the comments, and leave a like. 200 likes and I'll make more long form content. If we don't get those likes, I'll stick to TikTok. I know I'm probably not that good at this. Appreciate y'all watching.